I'll be doing the demo now, and the brief agenda that we're going to go through is automated takeoff on a PDF/DWG, in this case it will be a PDF, how we digitize those drawings to make them easier to take off, how we place elements, and then also how we might automate that through isolating layers and colors in a drawing. I'll then show you how we apply the rules, say SMM7 or NRM2 rules for measurement and deduction, and how we build that into the software, and also how we add extra measurements based on what an object is there to do. So if it's an in situ column, it would have measurements specific to that, such as rebar weight or formwork. If it's steelwork, it would have a tonnage, and if it's an internal partition, it would have an area and a length and a few other measurements as well. I'll bring that all together by showing you the BIM takeoff methodology as well, so how we automate BIM takeoff and then include those rules and deductions also. And then we'll bring it all together by showing how we slice and view the information and take off and group it to make it really easy to connect it to a BQ. So it's quite a lot to go through. I'll kind of be doing some paraphrasing in terms of the takeoff, so I'm not going to kind of show you exactly how to do things, but I'll take you through things quite quickly. But you'll get a good idea of how the takeoff is achieved nonetheless. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump straight into the drawing and start the takeoff. So you can see the interface here. We've got various measurement groups on the left hand side: columns, walls, slabs, beams, all of the things that you'd find in a building or structure or groundworks are included on the left here. And this drawing is a PDF and looks like this ordinarily. So you can see all of that. It's black and white and it's quite difficult to read. So when we bring it through, we digitize it. It takes a few seconds, and we break things down into their various line weights, they're called, and we give them colors based on those line weights so that we can isolate different things. So an example of that is that the walls are green and the columns are yellow. So I have a chance of being able to automatically take them off, which is great. So if I was to look at manually placing an item first, let's look at, say, creating the slab. So if I was to create an in situ slab, I create the element here by clicking New, In Situ Slab. I choose a thickness, so I'll just make it 200 mm, and then I would place it in using either the line tool, the curve tool, or the area tool. So in this case I'm going to use the line tool because it's a odd shape. Now I'm just going to do this really quickly, so forgive me if I make a few mistakes, but I just want to get through this and make sure that we're moving forwards quite quickly. So just placing in the slab to give you an idea of how that looks. And you can see that the item itself is being drawn in. Now this isn't an area measurement, this is the actual slab being placed in, and it is also being placed in 3 dimensions. So let's just look at this. We have a 3 meter floor by default, and I can see that that 200 mm slab is in there, and the drawing is overlaid on top of it. So we always work in 3D, even in 2D, because we can produce measurements now based on that 3D information. So if I was to view the quantity, forgive me, I need to calculate the item. If we were to view the quantity now, we can see that this slab has a volume, an area, it has soffit formwork at the moment, and it also has edge formwork as well, and also projected area and a rebar weight based on a standard setting that we've got in its attribute. So again, all of that measurement was being produced as I drew the item, and that's true for anything, whether it's curtain walling, finishes. They all have special measurements. If we can add them to certain items, we do. So that's how we manually place items, and that would be the same for something in isolation, like a column. But what I really want to show you is the automation. So if we were to look at the automation, what we have to do is we have to tell the software that a certain item, so in this case it might be the columns, is represented by a certain colour or layer. So if you've got a PDF which is flat, it's got no layering, you can do this based on the colour. If you've got a DWG, it's much easier because you've got the layering. So what you can see there is I've been able to identify and isolate the columns on this drawing just by using the colour that we gave it. I can then drag a box around it to say please take off this item, and then again I can drag a box around here and say please take off these items, and we've generated then a number of different columns based on different sizes, most of which are these 400 by 400s. So looking at the progress there, I now have the columns plus a slab which I've hidden in 3D, all generating various measurements based on what the items are doing. Just to show you that with concrete walls, again, as soon as I highlight it, we take all of the information, and I can see now we've got the walls. I'm just going to ignore some of the information because I think it's slab edge detail, so I'm just going to do what I know to be the cores. Again, it's why we have this drag box feature, so I can just drag a box around and choose where I want to do the takeoff, which is great for zoning and keeping control, especially on tricky drawings. And that's another item taken off. So again, very, very quickly we've started to generate quite a large amount of detail that all of these items are now spilling out measurement. So let's just have a quick recap. We've looked at how we digitize a drawing, how we might draw items in, and how we might identify them automatically based on layers and colours. So let's have a little look about the rules, deductions, and extra measurements. So extra measurements means that we add measurements based on what the item is there to do. So an example is the set of measurements that we have in this report, which is the overall quantity report for the walls, is different to that of a column or a slab, and then based on the material it's different again. So here for the walls we've got volume, formwork, edge formwork, so very similar to a slab but not quite the same. If I was to place in an item, for example a steelwork item, for anything tricky we have the full library, but if I were to place in a steel beam here, just draw that in quickly, that steel beam there, as soon as I calculate that and view the quantities, you can see that we have steel weight, surface area, number of items, the length, the area, the sectional area rather, the girth, the volume, and the fixing weight percentage allowance. So again, you can see that we generate an awful lot of information based on what the context of the object is and what it's doing, which is really, really great. So in terms of deductions and rules, we can take a quick look at the slab, because there's quite a clear example is the rules of deduction for slab openings. So again, if I were just to go to the slab section and look at creating a slab opening, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a few in. Now again, I'm just going to, in the absence of lots and lots of slab openings, just create a few around of various sizes. So if you imagine you're doing the takeoff here for a few different things like voids and penetrations and whatnot, I've created a series of slab openings which are measured now. And if I were to calculate the project, all of the measurement for those openings is being brought into a quantity summary. So I can see slab openings there getting the measurements, great. But how are those openings affecting the slab? So as soon as I place in the opening, it makes a physical deduction from the slab. And actually, as soon as I delete the opening, the slab would reappear. So we can see that there. And also, when we are coming to measure the slab, so let me go back to the slab section, we may be applying some rules of measurement to that measurement. So let's have a quick look at the expression, which is what we know as the calculation. So I can see there is a deduction for the slab openings from the volume and the area. If I were to look at that in 3D, which is a 3D representation of what deductions are being made, I have the original volume of the slab, which is fine, and then I have deductions for the slab volume, and I can see that all of those openings are deducting from the slab's volume. Now if we were to look at the slab area, I can see also that those deductions are being made. There are deductions for the formwork, however, of only the two that are over 5 meters. So the way that my rules are set up are that only openings over 5 square meters would deduct from the formwork. So you can see that in play there. So we have a separate deduction for the volume and a separate deduction for the formwork. So that's really, really powerful to make sure that we're producing the correct measurements and accurate measurements. All of the measurement rules and settings are held in libraries, and they can be edited and saved as well. So you can have a more measured through approach. You can have the inbuilt NRM2 and SMM7 prefixes that presets that we include in the software, or you can create your own more specific ones as well.